Hello, Megan. Welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. Great to have you here with us today.
Thanks so much for having me here.
That's awesome. Whereabouts are you in the world?
Right now I'm in California, but I just got back from Central America.
Okay, traveling around or
Just wandering around, yep.
doing your work?
Doing I didn't do as many random acts of kindness this time as I usually do, but mostly I think it was like a brain break recharge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Sometimes for
You
as
got to
much as
do that.
I know for as much as I love being kind to other people, sometimes I do need to re-up my energy and raise the stoke again to be able to keep doing it.
Be kind to yourself. That's
Yes.
awesome. So, for those that don't know Megan Snedden, she is the founder of the Kind Effect. So you're the founder of this random acts of kindness movement that you bring joy to random strangers throughout the world. Does that sum
Yeah,
it up?
that's essentially the goal.
Yeah.
I started making kindness themed content, just hoping that people might watch something that I like a video that I film and get inspired to do something kind for other people.
Kindness content. So what did you start with this? What actually let's go back even further. What got you
Sure.
to this point of starting the kind movement or the kind effect?
Let's see. I mean, I guess there were a lot of different avenues that kind of led me in this direction, essentially. I had worked in journalism for a number of years and
Yeah.
in my early 30s had started to um, just find less fulfillment in my job. I think because I wanted to do something that I felt was making a positive difference for others and telling stories that I think brighten people's lives than
Yeah.
rather than just fell into the content ether, I guess. So I really at that time was searching for something of greater substance and meaning. And I'd also had a couple of substantial losses in my life. I had lost at different times both my dad and my brother. And I think when you spend a long time grieving a loss, like after you are making your comeback, so to speak, you do kind of start asking yourself these philosophical questions of
Mm.
like, what is my legacy going to be in the event that like I pass unexpectedly? And how am I going to introduce more meaning and purpose back into my own life? And the answer to that for me was always really simple. It just always kind of came back to kindness and random acts of kindness, which I think it sounds simple, but it's really something that we have to keep top of mind in order to take action on, in order to do something about. We have to practice a lot of intention, I think. So then that's why I started creating content and doing, podcast appearances like these so that people start to just invite a little bit more kindness into their day-to-day lives.
Okay. What are some of the I guess proudest moments for you that you've done which had a big impact?
Um, gosh, you know, there have been a lot of, I guess, well, every time that I do a random act of kindness, it feels like an achievement, I guess, because just like anyone else, I spend a lot of time on my phone, and I can sometimes be a little bit introverted. So breaking through the barrier that we
Yeah, right.
have between other people is a big step. So I really love giving strangers flowers, and I'm nervous every single time
Is that
that I
right?
do it. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I might look confident, but I'm scared every time I approach somebody to give them a compliment or give them a bouquet of flowers or do any kind of random act of
Yeah.
kindness. Is kind of, it feels like overcoming fear and making a fun and unexpected connection with somebody. But there have
It's
been plenty
interesting.
of memorable occasions, I think,
Yeah, I mean, I've seen you giving
beyond that.
people flowers on the streets, in the parks, etc. You look pretty confident giving them flowers. And obviously you got this nerve. I guess that's what everyone says when they're nervous. And people go, no, you look fine.
Yeah, I think it's like if you were to send me bungee jumping, I'm kind of the type of person that just jumps right away instead of waiting because that's the easiest way to just get beyond the fear. So anytime that I've gone out and done random acts of kindness, it's like, okay, we've committed to this and we're just gonna go ahead and do it. No hesitation.
That's the best approach, I think, to a lot of things is just sort of 3, 2, 1, go, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
The 5-second rule. What,
The 5-second rule.
what do you, just on that, like when you're feeling nervous about approaching kindness, it's really is what we're seeing here. What is it that makes us feel nervous about being kind? Like, you know, giving some flowers, because I often think this like giving a compliment to someone. And I think, oh, if I give her a compliment or him a compliment, it might come across the wrong way.
Sure, absolutely. I think, well, there's the general just awkwardness of just approaching somebody, I think, out of the blue, and they're not expecting it. You're at the grocery store and they're just kind of like in their own mental world thinking about like, oh, what's on my list and what do I need to get today? And suddenly you walk up and approach them. And the nervousness too is I don't know how it's going to be received. So I could walk up to somebody and say, hey, you look really nice today. It looks like you put a lot of thought into your outfit, or I love your look. Or, you know, you give them flowers or something. Maybe they don't want the flowers. Maybe they shun you for their compliment or look at you weird. And I think I've run all of the worst case scenarios through my head. And what I've found is even if you get rejected in some way, it's really ultimately not that bad versus on the other hand, if the person is open and receptive to whatever you're saying or giving to them, then the outcome is just so overwhelmingly positive that I just cut my losses sometimes with the small rejections because they ultimately are so insignificant compared to the amount of impact that is made when a random act of kindness goes over well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good point. Really good point. There's more gain to be had than loss, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
And how you approach that. That's cool. And so what are we with the kind effect? Have you written a book? What are you working on now to promote this further?
Oh my gosh.
I assume you've written a book. Are we writing a book?
I would love to write a book. I haven't written a book yet, but I would like to. Well,
you're a journalist.
I
mean, it makes sense.
I know. I guess I just don't know where to get started. You know, I do have a small short ebook that is called the Changemakers Action Plan that's on my website.
On the website,
and more than anything, I think it's less a storybook and something for somebody to read as it is kind of a guide or a plan for somebody to kind of analyze their life and the things that bring them joy and their special talents and trying to come up with ways that they can find with all of their skills and passions to make an impact.
Yeah, cool. So that's on the website there.
It is, yeah.
thekindeffect.com. So we'll stick the link in the show notes for everyone to have a look at.
I appreciate that.
With the kind effect, I mean, what sort of things can we do to show more kindness in the world?
I honestly think there's an overwhelming amount of things that we can do. And again, you know, when I talk about kindness, it's not necessarily rocket science, you know. I hats off to people that are out there starting really big organizations and taking on really lofty goals and missions in the world. Like I do think that there is a place for that, but I do think that it's in order to reach that place, you can even get started with small things in your day-to-day life, giving compliments, buying strangers flowers. One of my favorites is going to the grocery store, buying a bouquet of flowers, and then giving those flowers to the clerk that I just bought them from. That's definitely won some people over a few times. Or if not flowers, then being like, hey, what's your favorite candy bar? Because you know how at the grocery store they have all the candy that's up front and they're just kind of looking at it every day. And I love to surprise them by picking something out and buying it for them. And I think too that on the more sentimental side, for example, if you know somebody in your life that's going through a difficult time, continuing to be present by checking in on them, and sometimes even like intuiting something they might need and they're just taking action to do it. So for example, when my dad had passed away, a friend of mine had called and we were talking and I was complaining about how suddenly everything in the house was breaking down, like the toilet had broken and the heater had broken, the garage door had broken. And next thing I know, he shows up at my house with a toolbox and is like, okay, you have me for an hour and I'm going to fix everything that I can within that time frame. And I really appreciated that. It was like, wow, I didn't even have to ask around, to hint around at what I needed. This person just took action on that. And I think that's very impactful because a lot of times one of our favorite things to say to people is like, let me know what you need. Let me know if I could do anything for you. And sometimes if you're going through a loss or like a really difficult time, it just robs so much of your mental energy that you're not able to answer really that question for someone else. Yeah. Or there's a weird feeling of imposition if you were to call somebody, be like, hey, remember that time that you said, let me know if you need anything, likely they're not going to take action on that. So the kindest thing that you could do is either to do something for them or even be the person that calls that's like, hey, I just was thinking about you and wanted to check in.
It's a really good point, though, because I mean, often we do that automatically, just say, oh, let me know if I can help with anything. But showing up and actually being there is more approachable, really, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. It really is. Or even the people that have continued to think about me even after the initial period of difficulty has passed, for example, when someone dies, like 1,000,001 people call within the first 3 weeks, and then those calls just fade away and then the phone is suddenly silent. And the ones that the kindest people that have really stood out to me, the ones that have continued to call and check in. Yeah, I have one friend who, for example, she remembers Father's Day every year and either sends me a really kind and warm message about, hey, I'm thinking about you and your family today. Or other dates like that are important.
Yeah. It's really about being quite intentional about others, isn't it? Rather than sort of inwardly focused all the time. And I think, and I'd love your thoughts on this, I mean, in this day and age, we all seem to be very much individually focused. It seems like we're all just racing out there to try and survive in this modern age and not really thinking about other people. And so we've just got these massive blinkers on, and it's so easy to say, okay, be kind. But then I think that because we're so individually focused, we could say a nice thing, but is it genuine? Is it just something that we're doing for the sake of doing it? Like saying, if I can help you with anything, let me know.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, like that without any intent.
It really is so true. As I said before, promoting kindness isn't necessarily rocket science, but it is about the intention, and keeping that top of mind each day, every day, of thinking, what can I do for other people, and how can I be of service to others every day? And it can be even down to changing some of your habits, like leaving the house an extra 15 minutes early so that if you're driving in traffic, you're not swearing and just, cursing the road that everyone else is driving on because you're running behind, or being able to let others in front of you when you're on the road, or, I constantly am reminding myself to leave just a little bit earlier, a little bit more of a space cushion, so I can have those day-to-day interactions and be actually kind to people that I don't even necessarily share like a close interaction with.
Yeah, nice. Is there a way we can start with this process without, and again, I don't want people to go out there and be non-genuine about their approach. I want them to go out there with heart and intention and have some sort of practice that they can put forward.
Yeah, I think probably just aiming for the simplest stuff first. And that would be, who in my life have I not checked in on in a while that I could just, even if you don't feel like necessarily engaging deeply with them, just saying, hey, I've been thinking about you, or who who can I acknowledge? For example, I have friends that are entrepreneurs that are working really hard. I can tell because I can see it on social media, or they've had certain number of wins that I've noticed. And sometimes I send messages of acknowledgement of saying, hey, I see that you're hustling, like all of your efforts are paying off, like keep going, you know? I think these little shows of not just respect, but of noticing people go a really long way, right? Because we all want to be acknowledged and
Yeah.
noticed by somebody.
What
And that I
is
think is a great place to start.
what is superficial about that and non-superficial? But like if you look at social media, it's driven that way. So I can put up
Sure.
something and then I'll get a bunch of, oh, you know, you're so great, whatever, blah, 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 all these nice positive messages back at me. Oh, I get this like dopamine hit and feel good sensation.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing? Because it sort of, to me, sometimes I think, oh, it creates this false reality.
Sure. I mean, maybe if you're continuing that engagement on social media, but I think if you take it offline, then it suddenly adds
Yeah,
something different to it.
definitely.
Like instead of just commenting on that post about someone's success, you actually either call them or send them a text message, and craft something with a little bit more thought behind it, than just like, good job, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or the automated responses, which is becoming more easy now too.
Yeah. Yeah,
You can
exactly.
totally do that. So there's lots of little acts of kindness that we can do. Do you look at the science behind the kindness effect, or the kind effect, I should say? And
Mhm.
what does that promote by acting like this towards others?
I guess, I can definitely speak as an example for my own life and the mental health benefits that kindness has. I
Internally
given,
for you?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, for example, like given what I've gone through, I've definitely had my fair share of experiences with depression and anxiety. And so, anytime that I've engaged in random acts of kindness, it's helped me to reinstate a feeling in my own mind and internalize the idea that my life matters and that what I do matters, and like I have a place on this planet too, which is
Mm.
something that when you're depressed it kind of fades away. And also when you're depressed, a lot of things just become inaccessible. So the idea of starting your own charity or nonprofit can just sound like an impossible feat when you could barely just get a hairbrush through your hair.
Mm.
And having this type of positively reinforcing regular activity can be part
Yep.
of your upward spiral out of depression, and when it's combined, I think, in conjunction with other things like exercise and having close relationships and
Yeah,
such.
sure. So you went through some serious depression yourself?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been through some hard things,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think when we go through hard things, that not that I want to say necessarily that depression is normal, as in it's acceptable, but normal in a sense of when you go through hard things, that affects your body. And so if you have this type of body and mind response to a death or a loss or multiple or any other hardships, I think it's totally normal.
Yeah.
And it becomes your responsibility then to try to create a pathway out of it.
Mm.
And unfortunately with depression, it's like there's not just one singular pathway. It's not like you're just going to exercise and then it's over. It's like you have to have close interactions with people in your community, and exercise, do random acts of kindness, journal, therapy, potentially medication. So that's why I said, the idea of random acts of kindness could be something that could be integrated into your treatment regimen if you're trying to get out of depression or other hardships.
Yeah, cool. So just one facet of that certainly
Mhm.
can be helpful. That giving back to others, service to others has been proven to help people recover from their own depression. Because I guess
Yeah,
it takes that
absolutely.
that that focus inwardly and puts it outwardly.
Yeah, yeah, because if you're constantly thinking like about your problems and you're stuck in a rumination rut, then getting out of your head and outward to focus on others is absolutely helpful, even if it's just for a short little bit.
Yeah, cool. Can the kind effect also be done in reverse inwardly? It's like, should we be practicing this kind effect on ourselves more often, daily?
Um,
Have you thought about it in that instance?
what do you mean exactly?
Like being more kind to yourself. You know, you're
Oh,
talking about
yeah.
going out there and doing small acts of kindness for others, but what about looking after oneself?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely important. I think actually the better that we take care of ourselves and are kinder to ourselves, the more energy we're going to have to be kinder to others. So, and ultimately, it's not selfish at all to take care of your own needs and fill up your own cup, because then you're just re-energizing yourself to just give more versus, I mean, I'm sure that you could probably imagine a time when you've had to be giving, but you're also like burnt out, you know, like we're just, we're
Constantly.
less useful to others and in society when we're burnt out, and more useful and more able to give when we are, our cup is full and runneth over.
Energized. Yeah, 100%.
Mm.
I've been there, feel that way, can understand that for sure. So the kind effect, thekindeffect.com. Megan, thanks for coming on the show today. How can people best find out more about you and connect with you? Where's the best spots?
They can go to that website you mentioned. I'm also on Instagram at The Kind Effect.
Okay, and all the links will be on that website, I assume, as well. Yep, that's awesome. Well, Megan, thanks for coming on once again.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
Guys, check it out at thehiddenwire.com. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you soon.